This story is called Come Together, and it is written by Red Sandman 99 on Archive of Our Own. The ground felt like it was staying under her feet as Summer followed the older woman to the room they shared. She stumbled, but didn't fall, mostly because Layla didn't let her. Another night at Raw meant another night of humiliating fandango, and another night of humiliating fandango meant another night out on the town, celebrating the fact that they had once again made a fool out of him. At this point, some were calling them vindictive in their constant barrage of revenge tactics, and maybe they were. But she knew that she didn't care, and she was fairly certain Layla didn't either. Nobody got anywhere in the company being merciful, and they certainly didn't get anywhere by being made fools of, which was what Fandango had done both of them first. The way she saw it, if they had to keep getting him and show everyone just what hell would be unleashed on them if they ever thought to cross them again. They came to a stop in front of their door. Layla made sure Summer could stand on her own before pulling the card key out of her bra. Why she didn't just have it in her purse, Summer didn't know. Now all she could picture was the card sticking to her tit as they had been dancing at the club, and a drunken giggle escaped her. Loud and obnoxious in its nature, it punched through the silence in the hall like a gunshot. Layla looked back at her in surprise. That only made her laugh all the harder. Shh! The older woman tried to put a hand over her mouth. You'll wake everyone up. Summer was entirely too drunk to care. Her laughter only got louder as she knocked Layla's hand away. Layla rolled her eyes and just unlocked the door. Come on. She grabbed the leggy blonde by the hand and pulled her into the room. Summer bumped the door shut behind them with her butt, and then leaned back against it, still laughing, but much more quietly now. The click of the door shutting sparked a change in the air. Layla still had her hand, and she wasn't looking to let go. Her dark eyes slowly trailed up and down Summer's body. Summer licked her lips and let her own eyes wander over the woman before her. It had never really hit her just how gorgeous Layla was. It was weird because she had known Layla was pretty. Whether people liked it or not, to be a diva you generally had to fit some sort of pretty mold. But for whatever reason, she had been blind to just how fucking gorgeous Layla truly was. Maybe it was the alcohol in her system, maybe it was the way the strapless blue dress fit on her. Or maybe it was just because she was coming to terms with just how wonderful of a companion Layla actually was, and therefore, her looks were becoming all new and shiny to her. Whatever it was, she just knew she liked it. Layla was the one to make the first move. No surprise there. This was a road she had traveled down before. Michelle, Eve, Caitlin, AJ, maybe there were more Layla had been with, but Summer just didn't know about them. Not that she cared to know. Anything like that stopped mattering the moment she was pulled down for the kiss. And what a kiss it was. Layla's lips were soft and full, a sharp contrast to the thin, chapped things she had gotten from Fandango. She moaned into the kiss, a shiver running down her spine as Layla's tongue slowly slid into her mouth. The kiss was slow but still demanding at the same time. She was being savored rather than rushed, to a not-so-satisfying main event. Layla's hands began to run over her in much of the same way, and she arched into them happily. It had been a long time since she had been touched with any kind of appreciation, and now she was even more horrified with herself that she had let Fandango treat her the way he did. What had she been thinking? She deserved so much better. They both did. High heels went flying in every direction as they stumbled away from the door. Layla was the less drunk of the two, so removing Summer's pink halter top and black miniskirt was no issue for her. Summer had less luck on her end. Drunkenness made her fingers clumsy, and she got the zipper on the back of Layla's dress stuck several times because of it. Muttered curses flew from her mouth and she tugged harder, finally getting it down. It fell to the floor and Layla stepped back, kicking the garment across the room to where her shoes were. Summer's eyes looked Layla up and down once again, body flushing at the sight before her. This was entirely new territory for her. Most in the company thought she had been with Sasha or Charlotte or both even, but that wasn't the case. Her foray into the world of women only came from some drunken makeout sessions back in college. She had chalked that up to just some standard experimentation, and maybe that's all this would be too. Or maybe Fandango had left her so disgusted with the entire male species that this was her go-to option. Or maybe, just maybe, it didn't fucking matter what this was, or why it was happening. What actually mattered was the way her breath caught in her throat when Layla undid her bra. What mattered was the bolt of electricity that went through her when Layla's fingertips merely brushed against her. Everything in this very moment mattered, and everything else could just be figured out later. Layla grabbed her by the hips and directed her to the bed. She flopped down on her back and scrambled to the pillows, giggling as Layla jumped on the bed with her. Their lips found each other once more, Summer initiating it this time. Layla cocked an eyebrow in surprise, but swiftly responded by running her hands over her chest. Summer shivered. Her own flesh and Layla's touch was so heated, but the blanket she was laying on was so cold. The dual sensations made her head spin. Her hands worked to get Layla's bra and panties off, but they worked even less well than before. Let me, Layla mumbled. She pulled back from the kiss and got them the rest of the way undressed, licking her lips at the sight before her. Look at you. Summer bit her lower lip and spread her legs. The throbbing between her legs was increasing by the second. Layla leaned over and Summer intercepted for another kiss. Layla indulged her for a moment, before her kisses started to trail down Summer's body. First, down her neck, and then to her chest, where her mouth could linger and leave little marks more freely. Her hands groped and squeezed Summer's breasts as her mouth slowly worked them. Summer gasped and arched her chest up. Layla smirked and kept going, the trail of kisses going down Summer's stomach and then to her inner thighs. Summer groaned and arched her hips up. She wasn't going to beg. That wasn't her style. Though, if she wasn't touched soon, no way. She demanded, not begged. The first swipe of Layla's tongue between her folds made Summer's toes curl. She closed her eyes, a soft moan escaping her as the tip circled around her clit. There was a moment where she swore she felt the older woman smirk against her, but it was lost as her mouth closed around her clit and sucked on it. Fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. She gripped the blankets below her and twisted them tight. Fandango very rarely ever did this, and when he did, he half-assed it. Getting inside her or her mouth around his dick had always been more important than indulging in her pleasure. Layla's tongue slid inside her, driving all thoughts of Fandango out of her mind. She moaned again, louder this time. She was only faintly aware of her legs being moved over Layla's shoulders. Skillful fingers rubbed over her clit, drawing out yet another moan. She wanted to open her eyes and watch. The sight of Layla's face buried between her thighs had to be as good as it felt, but she knew that the moment she did, she would lose it, and she wanted to ride out the sensations for as long as she could. So she kept her eyes shut, her fingers threading in Layla's hair, while her hips rocked against her mouth. Oh God! Much more flew out of her mouth, but those were the only two words that were in any way distinguishable. Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Layla smirked again. Summer could fucking feel it, even as her tongue continued to devour her. A hand slid under her, lifting her hips and holding her there. The tip of Layla's tongue moved along her walls, tracing circles at the much better, deeper angle. Fuck! Summer had absolutely no idea just how loudly she yelled that. Not that she would care even if she did. If anyone thought to say anything to her, she'd just rip their face off. Oh fuck, Layla! Both of her hands gripping the other woman's hair now. The hold had to be painful, but Layla didn't voice a single complaint. Instead, she carried on, one hand steadily holding her in position, while her fingers rubbed her clit. Oh fuck! Oh God! Oh God! Oh fuck! Summer couldn't breathe. She felt her chest rising and falling, but it didn't feel like a single bit of air was getting through her body. Her lips stuck straight out, toes curled up tight. A blinding white heat pooled in the pit of her stomach, coiling and binding everything inside her so tightly that she couldn't take it. Please! She managed to choke. Please! The rest of the plea didn't need to be heard. A right flick of the tongue and a harder rip to the clit drove Summer over an edge she didn't even know existed. Her moan was nearly a scream and she felt her body jerk, her hips bucking desperately to ride out every second of her release. It wasn't until she was limp and nearly shaking that she felt Layla pull away. She finally opened her eyes but could only lay there in a daze for several minutes. She watched Layla wipe her mouth. A devious grin spread across her lips the whole time. You alright, love? There was so much smugness in that question, but it was so well deserved that Summer couldn't even think to be bothered. Yeah, she finally managed to reply. Her chest still rose and fell rapidly, but she at least managed to uncurl her toes. You sure? Layla trailed little kisses back up Summer's body, not stopping until she reached her mouth. We can stop if you want. The offer almost had to be accepted, but the taste of herself on Layla's lips gave her new life. With a growl, she flipped them over, positioning herself on top of the smaller woman. Layla just raised her eyebrows, amused and giving Summer full permission to do whatever she wanted. This was going to be a long and beautiful partnership.